Hello everybody, my name is Chikirza, and welcome to another art journal video. I'm going to be using this silicone mat as my paint palette today. I have this blue acrylic paint that for whatever reason from the day I first bought it, it's super runny. And I really just want to use it up. So I'm going to use blue as the background on my page. I don't have any other acrylic paints that have ever been like this. I've got other colors with this brand that are just fine, but for some reason this one is just super runny. Giving it a quick dry. And now I grab a piece of a makeup sponge and a darker blue paint. And the plan is to just dab stuff on the paper. Get some color, get some sort of a background going. I didn't really know what I was going for at this point. When I sat down, my intention was to draw something cute, something cartoonish. But I find that there's almost no point in me making plans to do a painting because it very rarely ends up being what I end up doing. I tend to work intuitively and just kind of go with how I feel at the time. So I tried using the makeup sponge and I wasn't really liking the way it was going on. And I decided to try the end of this just regular paintbrush that I picked up. Just dabbing it on the paper, and it's almost like a mass splatter effect. It's really cool. I've never tried doing that with the paintbrush before, like with an actual like paintbrush that you'd use to paint walls with. And when I discovered that, I thought, wow, this might be my new favorite way of doing a lot of paint splatter on a page in the future. Happy little accidents. So the blue worked really well, but the page was getting pretty dark, so I went in with the white acrylic paint and dabbed it using the same brush and the same technique. And then tried doing a little bit of light blue over top. That wasn't quite light enough for me when I mixed it with the white, so I grabbed some of that runny paint that I used in the background and did that. And now my page is fairly wet. So I'm going to give that a quick dry and see how it looks. Taking a look at it, can't decide, do I want to do anything else to it? Then I decided to just go with it. It kind of reminded me of almost like a snowstorm, the way the background turned out. So I was going to do some sort of a cute, cartoony type of cloud. So I do a couple of coats of white acrylic paint here. And then I thought, well, maybe if it's going to be like a storm, maybe I should do the underside of the cloud or make it like a dark storm cloud type of thing. So I mixed the white with a little bit of black, and that was fairly dark cloud. So I add some more to the gray. And I'm trying to build some sort of a gradient effect type of thing going on here. But then as I'm painting in the cloud and trying to do sort of like the upper part of the cloud, all I saw was a face in the cloud. And I was going to do something cute and do a face in the cloud anyways. But it was a different type of face that I saw. It wasn't a cartoon face. So I scraped up some of the leftover grayish that was on the silicone mat there, my paint palette. And instead of doing a snowstorm, I decided to change it into like a rain cloud with these big drops of water coming down from it. But because my background is fairly dark, I wanted to lighten it up and make sure that whatever color I put for those raindrops wasn't going to have the background color bleeding through on them. I did some of the drops as like a double drop, and they almost look like hearts. Again, I'm just doing stuff kind of intuitively, doing things how I feel as I feel like doing them. I've got a couple of the raindrops towards the bottom there that end up looking like as if they're going off the page. And I don't want it to be too busy. So now I decide to play with those eyes that I see in the cloud. I don't know if you saw them there yourself too, but I for sure saw them. And I saw a nose in the center there as well. Now, I have never done any kind of realistic portrait type painting ever in my life. So I wasn't really sure how I was going to attack this, how I was going to pull this off. I'm not great with shading. I'm even worse with blending acrylic paint. So this was going to be a challenge, but I couldn't unsee this face. So I'm thinking, okay, well, the nose and the bridge of the nose would probably be lighter, and try to do some sort of shading along the edge of the nose. Do a little bit of shading on the eyes, make them a little bit heavier. It is still a storm cloud, but it wasn't the angry eyes that I was intending to do when I first sat down and decided to do a cartoon cloud after I'd done the background. So I'm just going with how I feel at the time. Still trying to figure out some of that shading. It's definitely not perfect. I'm learning as I'm going here. I'm using my finger dipped in a little bit of water to help blend some of the paint around while it was wet there. And decided to do the shape of the eyeball. I just used a paint pen so that I could leave out the white of the eye for reflection. I decided that the top part was still missing something, so I attempted some eyebrows that were trying to resemble hair. And for my first attempt, they actually turned out pretty good in my opinion. They don't match. But realistically, most people's eyebrows, unless you're like super grooming them, they're not perfectly balanced in the exact same anyways. So in my attempt to still use up some of this runny blue acrylic paint that I have, I decide to paint the water drops blue. I'm going to leave the double water drops for now because I thought maybe I might want to do something different with them, make them stand out more, but I wasn't really sure at this point what I wanted to do. I wasn't really crazy about that blue. It was okay, but it seemed to blend into the background a little bit too much. So I thought maybe I'd dig some marks into it with the end of my paintbrush. But that wasn't really the effect I was going for either. I thought maybe it's that the water drops need a little more contrast. Maybe they just need to stand off the page a little bit more. So I went over to my paint shelf and picked up some gold acrylic paint and started to paint one of them gold. But it didn't seem right. The face was like a black and white face, and then I had these gold water drops, and it seemed off to me. So I went and grabbed some silver acrylic paint, and I liked that. I really, really liked that. Now, because the paint underneath is all scratched up and it's really rough and it's not even at all, I do end up having to do several coats of this in order to get the coverage that I want. So I'll bring you back when I have finished doing, I think I end up doing about 3 coats of this. Okay, so now I'm going to try to add some lips onto this face too. It just felt like the bottom part of that cloud was almost missing something. So I thought maybe if I put some lips on there, that will fix what it's missing. Then I realized that the lips weren't quite wide enough for my liking, so I made them a little bit wider. And now I'm going to paint the lips a nice bright red color. Add a pop of color to the face and see how I like it. If I don't end up liking it, it's acrylic paint. The best part about it is I can just paint over top of it and it'll be like as if nothing ever happened. So here I am. I'm not really sure what the boundaries of my page are going to look like, so I decided to remove the tape from all around the edge of my page, just to see what the overall look was, since I had so much paint on that tape. And you can see there that I started ripping up some of the paper with the tape, so I came from the other side and finished removing the tape. So I've got a fair amount of paint that seeped underneath that tape. So I grabbed a black paint pen and drew a border all around where that paint was, just trying to clean it up a bit. I thought it would look kind of cool if I put dots in each one of the corners. I wanted a little bit more from the border. I wanted to see if I could make it more like a frame. So I grabbed my black acrylic paint and my angle brush, since that's the one I was using already, and just did some stripes all around the border. Just one simple stroke. Now the edge with the binding on it, I don't want to get paint down in the binding area, but I also don't have a stop point, so I just drew another line so I'd have a stop point on that side of the page. Decided in the end that I didn't really want the dots in the corners, that I'd rather just have them be solid. And now I'm liking those lips, but they seem a little bit out of place. So since those double teardrops basically look like almost a heart, and I've got the red on the lips, I thought it might look interesting to make those double teardrops red. So that's what I did. I went and did a couple of coats of this. Now I'm looking at it, and I think, I don't know, there's still something missing. At this point, I'm still having a lot of fun, and I'm kind of sad that it's almost done, in my opinion. So I add a little bit of the silver acrylic paint as a little bit of a shine on the bottom part of those double teardrops. Decide to outline the hearts in black. Make them a little bit heavier, make them stand out. And wow, all I can say is the silver pops off that page. I had a lot of fun doing this, and it turned out with a result that I wasn't expecting at all. I'm happy. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.